Moving on, the airport site selection. What are the different concepts that you are going to consider? What are the different factors you are going to consider for selecting a site for an airport? This is an important topic. The classification or airport site selection. The factors that you are going to consider for airport site selection. The following are some of the factors which influence the location of site selection of an airport. The first one is atmospheric and meteorological conditions. The presence of fog, haze, and smoke reduces the visibility, and the poor visibility lowers the traffic capacity of an aircraft. The fog has a tendency to settle into areas where there is little wind. The lack of wind is caused by the topographical features of the surrounding locality. In a similar way, the smoke and haze are present at sites very near to the large industrial areas. The detailed analysis of the available weather records of all the potential sites will be helpful in recommending that the site which has the characteristics commensurate with the aviation needs. The wind data should also be studied, and to have a minimum blowing of smoke from the city, the site should be located on the windward direction. The second point is availability of land for expansion. The field of aviation is expanding day by day. It is therefore necessary to acquire land in advance, or to be able to acquire sufficient real estate in the future for expanding the airport. As the volume of the traffic increases, it will be necessary to lengthen the runways, to provide additional support facilities, and to expand the terminal facilities. For accommodating all these new facilities, the provision of sufficient real estate must be made. The third point is availability of utilities. An airport, especially a large one, has to be provided with utilities like water, electric power, telephone, sewers, etc. For electric power, most of the major airports provide their own generating plants to be used in agencies in the event when a commercial source fails. For a new site located far away from the available sewers, the sewage disposal plants may have to be constructed. The fourth one is the development of the surrounding areas. The study of type of development of the surrounding areas is very important, because the airport activities, particularly from the standpoint of noise, are often quite objectionable for the neighbors of the airport. The proximity of airport site to the residential areas, schools, hospitals should be avoided whenever possible. Suitable zoning regulations should be imposed to control the use of land adjacent to the airport, so that conflicts in future are avoided. In the early days of the air transport, the airports were located far away from the city, and the nuisance of noise was not a problem for community. In fact, the audible evidence of the arrival and departure of planes was often a source of local pride. With the introduction of the jet aircraft, the problem of nuisance has been aggravated with the adverse community reaction. However, the manufacturers of the aircraft are well aware of this problem, and all efforts are made to reduce the noise to a minimum level consistent with the operating economics and safety of the aircraft. Fifth point, the economy of construction. It is clear that if alternative sites are available and equally well suited, the site which is more economical to construct should be given preference. The site having the waterlogged areas or reclaimed lands are very costly to develop than those of natural ground. The uneven terrain requires much more grading than flat or even terrain. The availability of local construction materials may also have a significant impact on the cost of the project. Next, our sixth point is ground accessibility. Ground accessibility. The location of airport should be such that it results in the shorter ground access time. This is especially true in case of shorthand operations. It is an irony of fact that with the introduction of the jet aircraft, the air time is reduced, but in many cases the ground access time exceeds the air time by a considerable margin. It may also be noted that the access of airports is required not only by the air passengers but also by other users of the airport such as employees, visitors, spectators, etc. The airline passenger is interested in overall door-to-door time than just in the portion of the air. The location of airport at a considerable distance from the center of the population may cause great inconvenience to the users. All modes of transport should be considered for an easy ground access to the airport. Now, next, our seventh point is the presence of other airports. The airport should be located at a sufficient distance apart. This is necessary to prevent the aircraft which are maneuvering for a landing at one airport from one airport interfering with the movement of the aircraft at the other airports. The minimum distance between the adjacent airports will depend upon the volume and type of air traffic, operating facilities, etc. If this precaution is not taken, there will be severe air traffic congestion due to the limited airspace, and it will result in the reduction of the airport capacity. Our eighth point is the regional plan. The airport site should be selected in such a way that it fits approximately in the regional plan. Such an airport will form an integral part of the national airport network. Ninth one, the soil characteristics. The airport site which are favorable. The airport site with the favorable soil characteristics is desirable because it reduces the cost of grading and drainage to the considerable extent. The area should be, as far as possible, be self-drained. The shape of the airport and the general pattern of the drainage system are determined by the topographical features of the site. The site having the high water table may require costly subsoil drainage. A valley site requires less grading, but the possibility of floods should be investigated for such sites. An elevated site provides better drainage and visibility. The soil containing a reasonable amount of pervious materials like gravels or sand with a suitable natural binder is desirable for the airport site. The most undesirable type of soil is the one having the porosity, one having the property of becoming plastic when wet. The 10th type of characteristic that is desirable for a airport site selection is surrounding obstructions. The airport site should be clear of the obstructions likely to interfere with the landing and taking off operation of the aircraft. If they are existing, if they are existing, it should be possible to clear them easily. For any future erection of the obstructions, the steps should be taken to implement height restrictions in the surrounding area of the airport. The zoning for height restriction should be initiated as soon as the site has been finally selected. The obstructions may either be natural like tree, sloping ground, etc., or man-made like buildings, grid towers, etc. The removal of obstructions surrounding the airport site is absolutely necessary to grant safety to the aircraft activities relating to losing or gaining altitude gradually. The 11th point is topography. The topographical features like the ground contours, trees, streams, etc. should be studied while selecting the site for an airport. A raised ground like a hilltop is usually considered to be an ideal site for an airport because of the following facts. First one, it grants better visibility due to the less fog. It permits easy natural drainage. The approach and turning zones are less obstructed. There is natural drainage. Next, use of airport. The airport site is decided also by the use of airport, that is civil or military. In case of an emergency like war, the civilian airports are taken over by the military. It is therefore necessary to see that the airport site grants natural protection from possible air attacks during war. These are some of the desirable characteristics for selecting a site for airport. Next, we will move on to our next topic, that is regional planning. Regional planning. This is one of the simple topic, the regional planning. The regional planning aims at the formation of an effective network of airports on the national basis. The improper location of airports may lead to the airspace conflicts and wastage of the natural resources. The regional planning grants the following advantages. First one, it enables to implement the zoning laws in the areas where the new airports are coming up in the future. Second point, the efficiency of the airports in handling the air traffic is greatly increased. The third point is there is a proper coordination of the airports. The fourth point is the airports are not closely spaced. The Civil Aviation Organization of the central government prepares the regional plan in collaboration with the states, and it continues the following particulars. First one, the approximate location of the airports in national map, classification of the airports, location of the airstrips, routes. The fourth point is the routes of air travels, etc. The following facts and data are collected for making the airport regional planning more sound, scientific and effective. First one, the air traffic. The existing modes of the transports are studied and future expected volume of the air traffic in terms of the passengers, mail, goods, etc. is determined. It will enable to decide the number of aircraft movements required in future. The existing air transport, the distance, population and economic character of the surrounding areas getting air service are studied. It is also to be seen that two adjoining airports are located sufficiently away from each other so that the encircling radii of the two aircraft landing simultaneously do not overlap. The third point is population. The tendency of the population to save travel time should be studied along with other characteristics of population such as income, business activities, etc. The fourth point is the topographical features. The topographical and geographical features of the locality locality dedicate the suitability of an airport from the regional planning basis.